Do-rag wisdom here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Earth Day Y2K 20.02.26. 250 days until our hopeful liberation. Fake Senate impeachment trial. No vindication. No adjudication. No exoneration. Repeat. Mike Bloomberg is, among other things, a liar, just like his buddy Trump. He stood up on the debate stage in South Carolina, and in that disgusting, whiny little voice of his, he claimed that New York City teachers under me were treated with the best respect. Nothing can be further from the truth. I was a New York City school teacher for 28 years. Part of those spent under his rule. He's a liar. Teachers got one raise from Bloomberg and didn't see another until way after I retired and Bloomberg was gone. The UFT, United Federation of Teachers, refused to negotiate with him. Meanwhile, my movies and media program, something I developed myself and taught for the last 20 or so years of my career, was under attack. And I was teaching out of license. I'm a special ed teacher. And Bloomberg wanted to put me back into an MIS2 class, that's for emotionally disturbed, where socially maladjusted children are thrown together with the emotionally disturbed, and usually the socially maladjusted persecute the emotionally disturbed. And it was also okay for these children to abuse each other and the teachers too. And then there was also Bloomberg's testing, the constant test prep. Bloomberg had turned teachers into proctors and data collectors. Whether you taught math, science, social studies, language arts, minor subjects, even gym, you were a proctor. While the Bloomberg plague endured, each school year students and teachers were inundated with special practice testing days. Try to teach youngsters after they've spent 4 periods of test prep. I managed to avoid test prepping, but beginning the school year of Y2K08, I knew that the writing was on the wall. Bloomberg was getting ready to force me to join his test proctor parade, and scuttlebutt came down that after 20 years my program that I worked hard to develop would summarily be canceled forever, like it was nothing. And I took all the students, and I wanted special ed kids to be mainstream. It was considered like a mainstream class, so I wanted to help special ed kids to have mainstream credit. Canceled forever. Because Bloomberg needed test preppers, data collectors. Children were difficult to work with over the 28 years of my New York City public school teaching career, because parents no longer raise their own children. More about that another time. I still enjoyed working with the students, no matter how difficult they could be, but it was the adults who made my job horrendous. Not one New York City mayor that I worked under did anything to improve New York City public education. And by the time Bloomberg took power, I had had enough. Especially when Bloomberg decided to overturn term limits just for him. Being stuck with Bloomberg for 8 years was enough, but 12? Freaking 12? I never supported or voted for Bloomberg. And when I see his present day presidential political ads, I routinely fast forward through them because I time shift all my programming so I don't have to view any commercials. But most especially now, Bloomberg's. Lying Bloomberg's. Bloomberg did not stop with refusing to give teachers a fair pay. He undermined public school teachers further and the traditional public schools they work in by supporting charter schools. Private schools that are also supported by public funds. Very Orwellian. Charter schooling, by the way, was originally advocated by the teachers' union. They were to be specialized schools where teachers would be allowed to experiment with new educational methods. Republican Bloomberg and his ilk simply took that idea and used it as a cudgel to beat down the teachers' union. Charter schools did not have to be unionized, and those instructors, I'm sorry to say, who decided to work in them were nothing but scabs. And I'll tell you why you need a teachers' union another time. I'll tell you why you need unions in general. And to add insult to injury, Bloomberg was fanatical about opening up new charter schools anywhere that he could, but most especially opening them inside traditional public school buildings themselves. Co-location. That's when I first learned about something called co-location. Of 1, 2, even 3 charter schools in one school building, one traditional public school building became a norm. Talk about a recipe for chaos and discrimination. Bloomberg was a master at it. This was a rich person's concept of education. Charter schools were given full rights and their own rules. They were given separate entrances into the school building. Charter school students were given top priority in the use of gym, cafeteria, library. The proponents of charter schools, including Bloomberg, are nothing but advocates of a separate and not equal system of education, where misbehavior by traditional public school students continues and where higher standards by charter school students is demanded. See, they're creating 2 different school systems. One where public schools where kids can, parents don't care, kids do what they want, and instead of dealing with that problem and keeping our traditional public schools, they're making these new private corporate charter schools so they don't have to deal with the problem. And eventually close down the traditional public schools and make them all private, where eventually they won't be serving any but the elite. If I had worked another year or 2, I could have come away with $8,000 more a year in pension salary. But the idea of kowtowing to a rich turd who was trying to run schools like a business irked me. I did not go into public education to become a cog in a greedy business person's wheel. If Bloom Turd manages to become the front runner, I don't see how the teachers union is going to endorse him. Full disclosure, yeah, I'm going to vote for him if I have to, but I'll never forgive this Democratic Party as it stands. I don't see how all the progressives out there are going to stand with him either. How about Bernie Sanders supporters? They're gonna vote for Bloomberg? It's like he said on the debate stage, what moderate Republican is going to vote for Sanders? What progressive is going to vote for Bloomberg? What a lying turd. Bloomberg is as far from being a progressive as a corpse is from life. And he did nothing for New York City public education except undermine it. Bloomberg gets a big special Bronx cheer. From me personally for treating New York's beleaguered and dedicated public school teachers like Dreck.